Hello students, so we'll be continuing with the living world. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Let us see how it is a binomial name. So we were discussing about binomial nomenclature, and we will see how a binomial nomenclature is written. So the scientific name of mango is Mangifera indica. In this name, Mangifera represents the genus, while indica is a particular species or a specific epithet. Okay, here Mangifera represents the genus and indica represents the species or specific epithet. Other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. Biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. So the biological names are derived from Latin, and when they are written, that is when they are printed, it should be printed in italics. The first word in a biological name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. The first word represents the genus and the second word represents the specific epithet. Both the words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. So in order to indicate their Latin origin, when a biological name is handwritten, it should be separately underlined, and when they are printed, it should be printed in italics. The first word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. It can be illustrated with the example of Mangifera indica. So the first genus name should start with a capital letter, and that of specific epithet should start with a small letter. Okay, so what is given is that a binomial name, it has two components, a generic name and a specific epithet. We'll see it with the example of mango. The scientific name of mango is Mangifera indica, and here Mangifera represents the genus name and indica represents the species name. And biological names are derived from Latin, so they are, in order to represent their Latin origin, they are printed in italics. In a binomial name, the first name represents the genus name and the second name represents the specific epithet. And in order to indicate the Latin origin, the binomial name, when they are written, handwritten, it should be separately underlined up, and when they are printed, it should be printed in italics. And the genus name should start with a capital letter and the species name should start with a small letter. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet, that is at the end of the biological name, and is written in an abbreviated form. Example, Mangifera indica Linn. It indicates that this species was first described by Linnaeus. Okay, so the name of the author is written at the end of the biological name. The complete name is not given, it is given in an abbreviated form, that is Mangifera indica Linn. So that indicates that the species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. So there are 1.7 to 1.8 million organisms in the world, and it is not easy to study each of these organisms. So there must be some means by which we have to classify these organisms, we have to group these organisms. Okay, so that process by which we group organisms into different categories based on some easily observable characters, that process is called as classification. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we were to think of Alsatians, we know what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears and body hair. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our minds will be of wheat plants, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc. are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. Okay, so they're saying that example, if we take the example of a dog, we'll think of dogs. At Alsatians, we'll see like mammals, wheat, everything. So the scientific name of for the categorization is called a taxa. Here you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at very different levels. Okay, taxa can indicate the categories at different levels. Plants also form a taxa, wheat is also a taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa, but you know that dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, and dogs represent taxa at different levels. Okay. So, what they are saying in that paragraph is that we we have many millions of organisms present in the earth, and in order to study all these organisms individually, it is nearly impossible. So we must find some means to group these organisms into different categories based on some easily observable characters, and that process of grouping is called as classification. Okay, and we categorize these animals means we think about when we say about animals, then in these animals there will be mammals. In the case of mammals there are dogs. In the case of dogs there are different category like Alsatians. There are different breeds like Alsatian. Okay, so the scientific name we use for these categories is called a taxa. Taxa can indicate the categories at different levels. So that is animals, mammals, dogs, all these form represent taxa at different levels. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structure, along with the structure of cell, development process, and ecological information of organism are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. So, what is taxonomy? The process of classification of organisms into different taxa, that is called as taxonomy. So, in the case of modern taxonomy, we use certain criteria, and that include external and internal structure, the structure of cell, the development process, ecological information of organism. Okay.